All good, sir.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Good evening. It is January 27, 2026. It's 6 p.m. This is our town council workshop, and we will begin now calling that to order. Robert, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Yes, sir. There was two items in the agenda tonight. One has been tabled for further discussion, but one of the items that Councilmember Stroop wanted to talk about was the town hall rental regulations. And I will go ahead and turn it over to him, and I will share the screen with his comments. Is that it, Tom?
Yeah, yes, sir. I think so. Hang on a second. I'm trying to jockey. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to read. Is it okay to start now?
Yes, sir.
So this is more or less something that I've been trying to figure out how to approach for a long time because I'm a big fan of town hall. I use it myself and I go to all the events, but I feel like it might have been it's kind of inconsistent with everything else I've done research on with the town. And I'll just read through it. And then what I'm really looking for is feedback and ideas from everybody because I don't want to be the lone man on the island here. But it has turned into an issue with me and a few other people have mentioned things too. So I'll just read through it from the beginning and then we can kind of piece it together with questions, or comments you guys might have. But I'm really looking for input as much as anything else. Um, and once again, just to clarify, this what I want to discuss tonight is only specific to the town hall. It doesn't include the town hall events, that they're sponsored by the town. It's definitely not a noise ordinance proposal. That's a lot more in depth than I want to go. And once again, I'm looking for some help how to just resolve some of the issues that are going on there. It's a popular venue, as we all know, and it's probably going to get more popular after we make the improvements, especially when people realize that it probably is going to be used most of the time for a lot of times, should say, for wedding venue. And with the overcrowding in the area, it's probably going to be even more popular because there's more people. And with town having more events, more people are drawn here and on and on and on. So it's kind of come to a head the last few weekends. That's really been worse than usual. So I videotaped a couple, and I know most of you probably got those videotapes. I hope you did anyway. I guess I don't even call videotapes anymore, are they? Anyway, the videos. And I really hadn't been videotaping anything up to that point. It was just 2 weekends in a row. It was really bad. And it was just something I said, let me put this on video, see if it has any merit. Like I said, I use the town hall myself. My son was married at town hall. Not trying to shut it down at all. I believe in what we're doing there. It's a community outreach for our community first, and then the outlying areas second. But we have to keep in mind that it is a residential community. And the area has exploded, and the events are going to get bigger every year. We know that. And it's everything that's going on around us. I mean, the apartments are going up in Ocoee, north of us, all the development south of us. And we're in the middle, and we're a great place, and we're where everybody wants to be, including me. I don't plan on going anywhere. I love being here. But we got to, I have to continue to remind myself that we are overwhelmingly residential. We're 90% residential, which is most in almost any town you ever go to. And it's owner occupied with single family homes. That's very unique makeup in most communities, which means that we have, we're a family community. It's family first, and we all believe that. It's community first, it's residents first. And the residents in Windermere are involved. I was even talking to Toby, the guy doing the drainage in front of my house. He's like, man, the people in Windermere have an opinion, don't they? I go, yeah, as I'm talking to him, Steve Withers drives by and I introduced him to Toby and he starts telling Toby, I said, no, no, no. This is not where you tell Toby what to do. He said, yeah. So the Windermere residents are very involved and I'm one of them. That's how I got on town council. So saying all that just to keep in mind that, residents first. And I know you guys already all know that. I'm going through my notes. And the town hall is located on a residential street block, whatever you want to call it, but it definitely is a residential impact. That street is probably as commercial as any street in Windermere right now. And I know we're working on resolving that with some of the town hall makeovers and getting rid of some of the public parking and maybe stopping the overflow from the brewery and maybe just have golf cart parking back there. But for the people who live on Forest, it's a pretty busy street. And everybody knows this. Anybody that's been in town council or any town council meetings in the last 5, 10 years knows that key topic in all Windermere development always has been and always will be noise and traffic. And that actually is still number one complaint nationwide, even in big cities, believe it or not. So we've been through this before with issues. We currently keep fighting, Bird Island, different issues like that. And most people aren't affected by the people that are there. They're mostly affected and influenced and put off by the noises. We got some good protocols in place for noise. The town hall is the only exception to that rule. Me looking up my limited resources, but I believe it was an unintentional oversight. I think the town hall has grown in its use over the years because we have not avoided this topic on any of the new construction. So I think it's an unintentional oversight. And that's part of the reason I wanted to bring it up tonight, is because I think it needs to be readdressed and kind of put more in line with all the other noise and code restrictions we have in Windermere for the same reasons. Once again, it's not intentional. It wasn't anybody just avoiding it. It's just evolved with the area and the growth. We've demonstrated good faith in effort with all new development. I mean, the brewing company, this is actually a quote from the ordinance. It was approved with the stipulation that it does not create external noise pollution. That was a big deal to the people in the area. I like the brewery. I don't even drink and I go to the brewery. I like hanging out there. I go to prayer groups there on Wednesday morning. I think it's a plus for our community, but I think it's a plus because it's not a negative, if that makes sense. It prohibits noises that are plainly audible, and we'll go into that in a minute, from the property lines, which I thought was very interesting. I know you can't be real specific on that, but that's a pretty short distance. And it specifically targets sound amplifiers and musical instruments. I am one that am not offended by people talking, kids playing, normal life activities. But when you specify amplifiers and musical instruments, that's the sort of thing that probably can interfere with people's quality of life more than a lot of things. Like I love the sound of the playground. Some people don't, but I love it. Kids playing. In Windermere, Florida, this is from the website also, construction noise. We just did this one. And it prohibits loud, non-emergency construction noise after 9 p.m., including loud music, which is strictly regulated. And even in Orange County, they have a recent updates. They reduced to their plainly audible noise to 50 feet at night. And this is predominantly in residential areas, but also overflows into some of the areas where there are public venues in residential communities. Next, Robert. Thank you. Also, believe it or not, I wrote this initial law for this. Maybe you do believe it. I wrote for this initial statute called the Boombox Statute. It got brought back in 2022, and even cars are not even allowed to have their sound emitting, and we know it happens all the time, of course, plainly audible from 25 feet away. So plainly audible, that's the question, and that's the problem with interpretation, and that's the problem with enforcement, but it's not. What people don't realize is plainly audible is not clearly audible. Plainly audible in the statute refers to noise pollution that can be clearly heard by a person using unaided hearing faculties, including rhythmic bass or indistinct words. And that's sort of the differentiating between what most people think is the law and what actually is the law. You don't actually have to hear the lyrics or understand what song's playing. If you hear the bass or even indistinct words, that's still considered plainly audible. In the very near future, and this is a whole other topic, but I just want to bring it up, 5 of the 6, I call them nighttime businesses in Windermere, the businesses that are open after 5 or 6 o'clock, I haven't really done research on exact times, but at 5 of the 6 that are open, so everything open except for Ace Hardware is going to serve or sell alcohol. The brewery, obviously, Tim's, obviously, Salvino, obviously, Fresco is going to have a large bar area, and you can order a table too if you wanted to, and then Town Hall. All of these were approved by Town Council, and that may be a whole nother issue. I mean, looks to me from looking at this, we could do a pub crawl in downtown Windermere and never leave home. But anyway, there's 5 places downtown you could literally have alcohol after dark. A whole nother issue. We'll talk about that some other time, maybe if it comes up. All those were approved by Town Council. But even those that were approved, none of them were allowed DJs or outside amplification. And you can believe this or not. I know you probably do believe it because you might have been heard it yourself. But when I bring this up with people, they'll say things like, "Well, you should have known that before you moved downtown," or "If you don't like it, move." And my response is usually a little in anger. But I moved here, 26 years ago, it wasn't like that. So I did not move into this situation. The situation evolved. So by nature of it evolving, then we have to evolve with it. Like I said, I don't want to shut down town hall. I go there for every single event. I plan on going to the restaurants downtown. I plan on going to Fresco. I plan on going to the brewery. I'm not trying to shut it down. I'm trying to have some consistency. And to be honest with you, I want a peace of mind and tranquility. I want the same thing that everybody wants in their house. I'm affected by it a little bit differently because I do live in the I call it the central Windermere area because I think that's fair to everybody to call it that because I don't want to differentiate between downtown and not downtown. It's central Windermere. We're all Windermere. But I think I want the same thing. I know I do. I want the same thing everybody else wants, and I want some peace and tranquility in my own home. I don't want to sit in my living room and have to monitor whether the music's too loud at town hall and whether or not I should call the cops or one of my neighbors should call the cops and whether the cops should, it's just too much worry to have to sit here at night and wait till everything's too loud that I can, I sometimes I just leave. To be honest with you, when they have parties just pretty big down there, I just leave. And I shouldn't have to do that, but I do. But to be honest with you, I'm kind of tired of doing that. It shouldn't be the way I have to live. With once again, with growth, new issues arise. Windermere has always put the residents first. Anybody that ever complains about town government in Windermere, I tell them just get involved, and you'll see that we're very responsive to the town's needs. I believe an effective rental agreement for town hall will demonstrate the same attitude, and it'll also be consistent with the other businesses in town too. Yeah. This is my proposal, but it's once again, I wanted to get, I wasn't even going to put these other comparisons up there because you can find other ones that go till 11. I'm not trying to say there are no places in other towns where they don't go later and have less, but these smaller venues, these are the ones I've been to, and they are located, they're bordered by residential neighborhoods, and there's in Winter Park and the city of Orlando. And they've also taken it because, matter of fact, I know the guy that helped write the ordinance for the Garden Villa. Him and his neighbors did it for the same reason because they were all affected heavily by what went on down there. And these are what's written for their ordinances for venues that are bordered by residential, which we are. Once again, we're 90% residential. It does not necessarily apply in Orlando or in Winter Park with other locations, which go longer, go later. But once again, we're kind of a unique community. I don't know that we should necessarily copy other communities. I feel like other communities should copy us. I mean, people want to live here for a reason. So that's pretty much my spiel. And here's my proposal, but that is pretty much the same what Garden Villa does, and that's what the people that live down there proposed and got passed by the city of Winter Park. But that doesn't mean we have to do it. It's just something that I feel like would be conducive to what we're trying to accomplish in our town. And once again, I don't want to mean, I'm not trying to sound selfish. I'm just trying to say that I just would like people when we consider this and when the discussion starts to occur, I would hope that the discussion would be based on what you would like if maybe it affected you. And I'm not trying to sound snobby about that, but I mean, it is a real issue for some of the people who live here. I'd be willing to say some people probably aren't even bothered by it, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's not an issue. And once again, it's the only place in town that's not consistent with all the other ordinances. So that covers most of what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate the homework and the presentation for sure. My question was, of course, going to be, what do you propose? And you answered that on the slide, so I appreciate that. I think it's an interesting topic. We're going to have some discussion on it. I think that we can have that and hear from everybody. I'll be curious to see what everyone's thinking. I know that there's probably some questions. Maybe we can get some basic questions out of line, like how or as we get moving here. Do we know how many events there were last year, or how many town hall rentals there were by chance, Robert?
69, sir.
69. Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think we'll just let's have some conversation. That's what we do with these workshops. So let's see what everybody's thinking and kind of go from there. I saw Councilperson David's hand up first, and then we'll move to Councilperson David.
Thanks, Mayor. Hey, Tom, I just got a couple questions. So the video that you sent, that was taken at what time?
I'm not sure. It was definitely after 10. It went on for a long time before I got frustrated with, like I say, I'm not trying to sound like a crybaby, but I go to the movies. When they have parties down there, I go to the movies and I hope that it's over by the time I get home. And I've been doing that for years. And I just kind of tired of living that way. I'd like to come home to my own house in the evenings and sit and relax like everybody else does. But I feel like that one was definitely after 10. But I don't really want to have to listen to it till 10 o'clock either, to be honest with you. I don't think anybody would. So to answer your question, it was after 10. Because I know because I was in my boxes when I walked up there because I was starting for bed. But it's not the first time. And like I said, I on the weekends when I know it's getting loud, I go to the movies or I go to a late dinner, and I don't feel like that's a way that I should have to live.
Yeah, because it sounds like your more of your issue isn't necessarily the time or the number of people, it's the noise. And I
Yeah.
know this council has had conversations in the past that we are looking at potential revisions to the noise ordinance, and I think, that's where we should go with this as well. Robert, I don't know if you did or I didn't get it or anything, but can you share the current town hall lease agreement with us at some point?
Yeah, I'll have to bring it up.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilperson David. Councilperson David.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, David asked one of my questions, but the one thing about the live music, though, Tom, I mean, we have that for food trucks and everything too, and I think that's going to hurt some of if we do it for one, we have to do it for all, right? So what if I do like the proposed time of 9 p.m.? I think that's fair. I think that they should, at least the music needs to be turned down by 9 if the event, because they'll probably have to clean up and stuff. So the event, they probably won't get out of there till 10 or a little after, but the actual partying should be done by 9, in my opinion. Um, but I'm with David. I kind of think it's more the noise versus because the video that I saw it didn't seem like that was live music, but it could have been. Um, it because I couldn't see inside or anything. It's just a lot of people partying and it was very loud. But because we've had that issue over here in the Manors, believe it or not, we have a couple of houses that like to do parties till midnight, 1 a.m. and it's been fun. Um, and I'm not one to call the police. I won't do it. So I just put up with it.
I'll call them for you.
But no, I do like maybe revisiting the noise ordinance and I don't want to discourage people by putting more restrictions on them, but I think a time limit of how loud things should be, I think that's not asking too much at all. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilperson David. Appreciate it. Councilperson Haynes.
I didn't actually get to see the video yet, so I would still at some point like to be able to see that. I think Tom tried to send it to me as well, but for some reason it didn't go through. But in terms of, I mean, I do think we need to revisit the ordinance. I do see Tom's point though. If we're going to have these rules about how far you can hear music at the brewery and all these other establishments, why we wouldn't have the same kind of rule for the town hall. I think food trucks are a little bit unique. I mean, we really, other than acoustic music, because I go to all the food trucks, other than the acoustic music, the only real like big band we usually have is like the Down Brothers. Um, I don't live as close as Tom does to the park, but I can say since I've moved here, we hear the music too. Um, Before, when the Down Brothers used to play in front of Town Hall, we could hear it a lot more. And now they play facing north, and we don't hear it as much. But that being said, I'm sure the people facing north do now, so like I'm sure that sound has just shifted. But we do hear a lot, of the parties and stuff going on. When Robert pulls up the rental agreement, we'll see here. But if I remember correctly, I think I've had conversations with Lillian or somebody in the front office that, like, if they rent town hall, it's supposed to be one fee, and if they want to rent the back porch, that was, like, I thought, another line item, and a third line item for the backyard, which we, from my understanding, don't really enforce. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I recall of having the conversation because I tried to rent town hall about I was thinking of it for a birthday party 3 years ago, but we ended up doing something different. Um, but I think we need to revisit the ordinance. But I also think that if we're going to have rules for other establishments, maybe I agree and I don't agree with you, Mandy, in terms of like that we should have to follow the same rules. Like if we're having a special event and it's a few times a year, I think that's, a lot different. If you add up the number of food trucks, if we're still not doing them in the summer, that's 10 food trucks a year. That's including our coincides with Light Up Windermere. It coincides with National Night Out. So we have those 10 events. We have, Wine and Dine going on. We have our holiday hoopla. Pet Fest isn't happening anymore. So you're only talking about 12 or 15 events a year, maybe. And you're talking about 69 rentals. So that's 69 days of potentially hearing that. So I feel like, if it's a special event, like in a lot of towns, you might get a permit for a big event like that. And that's like on a different level than maybe just your average wedding rental where they're, blaring music with amplifiers outside town hall 69 nights a year. So that's my thoughts at the moment until I hear what everybody else has to say.
Thank you, Councilperson Haynes. Um, Mandy, do you mind if we hear from Councilperson Williams and we'll come back to you?
No, that's fine. I was just going to
Okay.
respond to Brandy, but it's all good.
Okay.
Can you guys see the town hall rental agreement?
We can. It just popped up. I don't know if
Yes, thank
anyone
you.
wants to peruse that first or.
Yes, stage and porch. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, with our rental agreement it is not inconsistent with other municipalities, but I mean, again, it's what you guys want to do.
The while we look at this, refresh me. Does food trucks end at 9 p.m., not 10 p.m.,
Not,
right?
I'll tell you, I was there this last Friday and it ends at 9:30 and the police and I
Okay.
was in the park still
Right.
because we were chatting with people because my daughter was playing with a friend that showed up late and the police had to go around and start giving people warnings at a quarter to 10 that the park will be closing at 10, you need to
Okay.
leave. And even at 10 o'clock, he was, and now the music wasn't playing anymore and it wasn't loud that night because I think it was a DJ, but they were at the front of town hall. So you
Hmm.
could like talk in the side yards and whatever, but even at 10 o'clock, I started to leave with my husband and daughter to walk to my golf cart, and there were still probably 30 people in the park or 50 people that they were still walking around in circles trying to clear everybody out. So
Yeah, we shut them down between 9 and 9:30.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify because I thought it might be interesting information for everyone to have.
we
Um,
advertise it as 9:30, but I don't know what time the music stopped.
okay. Thank you. I just wanted everybody to get the opportunity to look at the town hall rental agreement. Let's see.
I can tell you, once again, I hate to be in the music monitor, but I've turned into that. It never shuts off at 9:30. I mean, it doesn't go
I
past 10.
think
Yeah, it doesn't shut,
I
it
think
doesn't
that
go, it doesn't go
oh,
past 10, but I feel like that's anyway. I'm just saying I do hear it.
okay.
I'm usually
Council
there.
Councilperson Williams.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Hopefully, you can hear me. My internet's been going kind of in and out. It's actually kicked me off of Zoom once already tonight. Um, this what, 2 years prior to you getting on council? So what, 6 years ago, we met at Paloma talking about this. Um, these issues, they've not changed. I can tell you when we've spoken with the chief in the past, enforcement's always the issue. Um,
Mhm.
my thought on this whole is one, we throw out the rental agreement that we have and it needs a full revamp anyways. Especially if we're gonna update town hall, the costs are gonna totally be drastically changed. I'm just talking with some other venues. Um, Winter Garden for the room at the end of the Heritage Museum, they get $3,500 to rent that for the evening. So, once we get into a realm where we can actually charge decent amounts, I think we can layer in better enforcement. My thought on it is we need to have a host, whether it's third party or however we handle that, to walk renters through this agreement and going, you know what, we're here the entire time to make sure you follow the rules. No sterno, the music, and then set parameters of going, hey, we monitor way, you get two chances, and then we shut you down, or if we get complaints from residents. I put together some bullet points that I sent to Robert late, but I'll share them with everybody on just some ideas of how we could handle it. But I think this is the same rental agreement I think we've used for forever in a day. And Tom's right, we've outgrown it. Um, and it's because, back in the day, you had to have a real DJ to get the music in there. Now you can do it with the boombox and an iPhone. So we're seeing more of these issues, and it's not just town hall. I think it's, other venues we have in town also that we're always trying to dampen the noise. So we just need to kind of get a better idea. But I think it all is going to fall within the rental agreement and how we handle it.
The, hey, thanks, hey, Andy, much appreciated, sir. Um, just a few thoughts, then we'll go to Councilperson David, and then back to Councilperson Davitt. Just a couple things to put out there. So I think that one of the things we have to remember too, so as we balance all this out, I mean, town hall is just that. It is a meeting place, it's a gathering place, and it's an amenity for residents. We may be being a little too generous with how many people we're allowing to use it. We may need to look at potentially some limitations on that. That could be a positive. For a lot of these types of situations that we've had, um, we've taken steps to see what the sweet spot is. When we did the boat ramp, when we did the Fifth Avenue Park, some things like that. We didn't start, just like Tom said. We didn't start like at DEFCON 10. We went to DEFCON 3, then we found that 5 or 6 was the spot. But we may want to just consider some things like that as food for thought. Maybe limiting it just strictly to resident rental, folks who have maybe a greater stake in the uh, the the enjoyment of not only the town hall but the respect of their neighbors. Those things could potentially impact some funding options as we go to get funding for refurbishment, but just that's just something to consider. I'm not saying that's absolute, but we definitely could think about some of those things. Tom, I was going to ask you a quick question. Has it been more of late, or is this obviously since you sat with Andy 4 years ago or so on it? Maybe it's not a recent issue, but I was wondering if it had also to do with the fact that with the weather being good, people open up the doors, and that probably sends a lot more of the sound out of the building itself. So that there could be some things that are strategic as well to create or at least keep what buffers there are.
Yeah, no, it's been going on for it's got progressively worse, obviously, just because that's the nature of growth. You know what I mean? We all We
Hmm.
expect certain things, and we adjust, and we've adjusted greatly in this community. I mean, I couldn't be happy with some of the changes that we made. I would love the idea that we didn't have to have, gates at the boat ramps, stuff like this. So
Right.
it's just progressively getting worse. And to be honest with you, like Andy said, it's going to continue to get worse because we're going to rent it more. Once it gets fixed, we're going to rent it even more. So one thing you got to be, I'm looking at this too. Do not even consider writing any sort of ordinance or agreement that includes a decibel measurement because that's impossible. Even the state, I went through this with the state already when I wrote the boombox statute for cars.
Right.
Impossible to enforce and it's so subjective. That's why they use the term clearly audible. If you start putting decibels in there, it's anybody's guess. And then you got to constantly have somebody up there monitoring it. You got to have a decibel meter. You got to have people that know how to use a decibel meter. So
Yeah, I know it
I
is
would go with,
tricky.
yeah. So when we wrote the state statute and clearly audible was accepted at the Tallahassee's level. So when you do think about sound levels, please don't tie your hands by putting anything decibel related in there because it can't be enforced. It won't be enforced. Even cops wouldn't even enforce it because and that was one of the comments I got from one of the cops when I called on it a few weeks back. He's like, I don't have a decibel meter. And I'm like, oh, well, you don't really need one. I didn't want to say
Mhm.
anything, but to answer your question, it's just gotten progressively worse. And I wanted to kind of head it off before it turned into even more of a problem.
Sure.
Yeah,
Well, and also
Mayor.
yes. Go ahead, Robert. Sorry.
No, I have Councilmember Williams' email pulled up if he wants to present it.
Yeah. Councilperson Williams, would you like to present that? And then we'll go to Councilperson David and Councilperson David.
Sure. These I pulled off some different municipalities on ideas. Tom, I know you're saying we can't do decibels. We're not looking at a law enforcement. This is a written agreement between two parties that agree to this ahead of time. Okay. So in the rental agreement, and I also say we need a host. We cannot keep renting this place out and expect people to follow the rules if we don't supply them with a host to monitor it, which they're paying for in the rental agreement. Okay. I mean, we could definitely take the decibels out, but I think we need to set standards
Mhm.
on times for how loud it is during the day, and there can be a spot in the backyard on Forest that says that's where we monitor it from.
Mhm.
And it's objective, but if you go into this ahead of time, um, everybody's on the same page versus not anybody there to enforce the rules. Does that make sense,
Yes,
Tom?
I love your idea of a monitor, but I've been through this for literally, Andy, for weeks in Tallahassee, and you decibels are different. Like if you put it next to a speaker, it's obviously louder than it is a certain distance, and that's why I mean, without repeating myself, that's why we went with clearly audible. I'm sorry.
I
Yeah,
understand
so
that,
yeah,
but
I understand. I get what you're saying. I do agree with everything you're saying, but it's if you get tied up in that decibel thing, no matter where you put it, and the monitoring of it and the type of decibel reader you have and people's perception is very subjective. So I would just, if we are going to rewrite this, I would definitely stick with clearly audible or plainly audible.
well, to me, that's even more subjective. If I tell you, hey, this is the meter we have, and I show it to when we walk in the door and I go show you where I'm going to monitor it from at any point during the party that I think it's too loud. Do you not think that's clear between two
Yeah, I think
people in an agreement?
I think that'd be great if if in a perfect world. But I'm telling you, I've been through this. This went for a year in Tallahassee, and there was no way that they were going to use decibels to determine noise ordinance violations. So they went with
But
that's
we're
why
not making an ordinance.
well, I mean,
That's my point.
yeah, but I'm just saying you can't because if I hear that's the reason they wrote it as to include bass and inaudible lyrics because the people that were complaining said, well, yeah, maybe it's not 60 decibels at my house, but it still keeps me awake because that bass just travels so far. So that's really part of the issue is that it's very subjective to people, but when you make it to where if you hear it, if it's plainly audible, then that's still a violation.
And you can make it plainly audible. I do further down do talk about the, and I'm going to just email this to everybody. When it talks about bass and stuff being just strictly prohibited, you can feel it or it's not allowed. But I also want to just keep in mind this isn't an ordinance that we're worried about PD having to enforce.
Right.
This is a one-on-one agreement, and if we have a host in place that is responsible for this, all the parties are aware when they walk into the situation. Okay.
Yeah, I agree
Uh,
100%.
you
Yeah.
know, and I think that's the biggest problem we have is we don't have anybody to monitor these parties other than PD when they get calls. And that shouldn't be their responsibility.
And that is definitely an issue, and we've seen that.
Yeah.
You know, some of these nights I've been there. I've seen, you know, and then I get the video too, so I didn't realize Tom was
I
there, but
absolutely. I think we can get to the right spot, and maybe it doesn't have decibels and all that in it, but I think it has to do with how we monitor it, and somebody's got
Mhm.
to be in place to do that.
Very
Yeah,
good.
somebody's figured this out probably prior to us. So, but I think the bigger thing is for us to get a general feel of what boundaries are we willing to work within to take whatever step number one is. So
Okay.
just be think, you know, frame it up like that in terms of, you know, how do we move the needle on this, and what
Hmm.
does that look like, and what are we willing to tweak? What are we not willing to tweak? And I have promised Councilperson David that I would get back to her, and then next up is Councilperson Davitt.
Uh,
I appreciate that, Mayor. No, going back to the Brandy's thing, the live music, I was just thinking, because doesn't the brewery have live music sometimes as well? So I just feel like if we limit, and say no live music at all, then we're hurting other events that we actually host slash other businesses who are following. I guess that's my thing. If they're following the rules and we're not having complaints, I hate to say, well, because of town hall, now we have to say no live music. So that was where I was going with the live music. And then
Mhm.
Andy, the thing with the bass, and I hate to bring this up, but I have a lot of deaf friends who like music and they have to feel the bass to be able to enjoy the music. So that would be again in their rental agreement. But I mean, I have a lot of deaf friends who love music and they have to feel the bass and they love to dance. So I think having a little bit of what Tom said, if you can hear it 25 feet away. Um, and I'm looking in the rental agreement, it does say 10 p.m. So I think a lot of our problems it will be solved by revising the rental agreement and then making it 9 p.m. instead of 10 p.m. I think that's going to be a big help right there. That's all I have to add.
Thank you, Councilperson David. Just
And
for the record,
yeah, man,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. I don't interrupt, but I do agree with Mandy on all those issues. But at the beginning, I did state that this does not include town approved events. So that when we have live bands for stuff like that, it's only for town hall rentals, what I'm referring to.
Well, but doesn't the brewery have live music as well? I don't want to limit
I
to,
don't
I
know.
don't want to hurt other businesses doing the same thing, I guess is my point.
yeah.
I don't know if they do or don't.
They do have live music. I have had complaints about their live music, and I've been told that the police have had complaints about some of their music because I thought there was something in the conditional use permit for that. I thought even it was in your first slide there, Tom, but maybe I was wrong. But there was some rules about it in the conditional use permit about what kind of live music they were allowed to have or when or how loud or something, I think.
Yeah, they're not
But
supposed
there's
to
been
have,
complaints about them, and they do have it.
they're not supposed to have any sound amplifiers or musical instruments, according to the original
Right. But
stipulation.
they do. You are correct, Mandy. They do. But I've been told, I've heard people from Forest Street that have complained that they're in violation, and why isn't the town doing it? Because it was supposed to be part of the conditional use agreement.
Okay, so see, I didn't know that, so thank you for the
Yeah,
clarification.
sure, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilperson Davitt.
Yeah, so I just want to say I agree with Councilperson Williams. We do need to redo this agreement because that's where it all starts. It's the contract between the town and the user, and Mayor, thanks for the time. It's allowed me to jump into AI on my computer and get into some local venues restrictions that are similar around us. So hours and noise limits. I think that was broadly brushed in our current operating agreement. Noises and curfew is what Tom is discussing. 9 to me seems a little early. 10 seems more reasonable. Robert, I didn't see it in the use agreement, but how does alcohol get regulated in our use agreement with the renter?
It depends on the amount of people.
Okay. And, and if it's what is that? I guess.
Well, I mean, Chief's not on, but if it's alcohol is being served and it's over 300 people, then we typically, or 150, then we typically require, but they have to do a special event permit.
Okay.
It's
So
usually not within town hall.
but for town hall rented events, we probably need to solidify that into some defendable position, I guess is lack of a better term. If over 300 people show up, there needs to be licensed bartenders at this event that can shut down overconsumption, right? So that's another thing that we probably need to look at for this agreement. Um, Total guest counts. I didn't see a total guest count on the agreement. What was that?
I don't know, sir.
We also have a maximum limit inside the building.
Well,
Yeah, I
there's
believe it's
Yeah.
but that's a
125.
that's a fire safety limit. That's not a guest count limit
Right.
based on our agreement.
I was just thinking it's less than the 300 people that Robert's referring to because it's only 125, Mandy said.
Yeah, because I know
Well,
when I've rented the town hall before, they've made it very clear I can't have more than 125 people at the event. So
so that needs to be codified in the new use
Yep.
agreement. And then one thing I think we missed on this is any tents, structures, and outside fire safety stuff. Obviously, the tents need to have fire safety regulations and use permits as well. So those are just some things. I think that's the way we go about this specifically for town hall. But I just wanted to kind of throw that out there for the group.
Yes, sir. Anything outside has to do a special event permit.
Okay, thank
Right.
you.
I have a couple more comments, but based on what Andy provided. So I guess my question would be, Andy, with like what you're saying and what you've, researched or whatever. So we have somebody out there at every event that we build into the cost for the rental agreement, and then that person's out there monitoring if the decibels are higher, and then it's a two strikes, three strikes, you're out kind of situation. But I don't, how does that help the residents? Like if that's happening that night, and you're gonna, I don't know what this means, a security guard or what kind of person would be doing this. And if they say, okay, turn it down, and they don't, then is that person going to call the police to come over and enforce it? Or how does that help with the quality of life? Because a two strikes, three strikes, you're out, uh, just means like, okay, we're not going to rent to them in the future. So I don't know how that solves the immediate problem if residents are dealing with it, I
No,
guess.
do you want me to speak for you, Randy, or do you want to talk to your, I
You
mean,
can, you can go. I think you're going to answer it, but yeah, go ahead.
okay. So if we increase the amount for the rentals, that would pay for somebody to be stationed at the venue. That would make sure that not, number one, they're cleaning up. Number two, they're adhering to the noise ordinance. And if they violate that, then they lose their deposit, which right now is 250. So that's really, it's not that much when, if you're trying to keep people quiet. So you can increase that fine or deposit. And the second thing is if they, don't do that, then they lose the ability to rent town hall again.
Robert, I would go and if we're having a host, they've got the right to shut it down.
Yes, sir. I mean,
You
they
know,
told
I
me to
mean,
shut
to
at 10
answer
o'clock.
Brandy's question is what stops them. It's not, it's not a security guard, it's a host. And, if things are not going correctly, they shut it down. And if there's a problem, then they can call the police. Does that answer your question, Brandy?
Yeah, I mean, that answers it more because, again, the fine to me really doesn't matter. I mean, I hate to use a tree reference, but we just have people, if they want to do what they want to do and they have enough money, they're just going to pay whatever fines and fees are involved. So I don't think that stops the problem. So if you're saying the person who's out there has the right to go pull the plug on their sound equipment,
Yeah.
and then if they give them a problem, call the police, that's fine. But I mean, I guess, are there organizations out there that do this kind of work? Because again, it comes to kind of like, it's almost like a security guard. If they're not going to have the full power of the police without calling the police, is there people that come and do that and, deal with the people if they're getting rowdy or whatever, I guess.
for
I'm
It's
for
like a
Go ahead.
25 an
bouncer. It's like
hour.
a bouncer at a bar.
Yeah.
For 25 an hour to stand there, we can find people.
Right.
I'm gonna have some free time. Maybe I'll be the town hall monitor.
Well, and we could always get an event planner. This kind of sounds like that's kind of what we need that can help really be like Andy says, the host, right? So they're there from day one, from the time they sign their rental agreement and walk through the event and until the end. I kind of think I think that's where Andy's going. It's what it sounds like to me, but I
Yeah,
might be wrong.
Mandy, I agree
Well,
with you. And then you can bake in the cleaning of the town hall into that, and not put that on the users of the facility because we've seen what a great job they've done in the past.
Yeah. I mean, I know with Blue Gardens, they have certain vendors that they use.
oh, yeah, that's a
Uh,
tough. They've got a rental agreement there. I'll tell you that.
yes, sir. So you have like Puff and Stuff, and I forget the other ones, but there's like four or five.
I guess my only other concern would be that when you're talking about, we already have a different fee structure for rentals from people who are residents and rentals from people who are not. I wouldn't want to see the rental cost get so high if you're saying, we're going to pad into the cost of a rental, an event planner for an 8-year-old's birthday party or something else or some other event with kids that aren't necessarily going to be the kind of thing that's going to involve a DJ. I think that's really going to bring the cost up significantly. And, I think we do have a broad spectrum of people and their, you know, financial ability of people who live here. If somebody wants to have a retirement party for somebody or a 75th birthday party or something, I just would hope that whatever we do, it doesn't make the costs out of reach for some of the residents.
Yeah, Brandy, with a lot of the research I've done with a lot of the municipalities, if it's past 5 o'clock or 8 o'clock, they increase the fees.
Hmm.
Yep.
So that can be a situation that we can discuss as far as increasing the fees to have somebody there for the duration, either 5 to whatever we go to or 8, whatever we go to.
Yeah, I think if we
Well,
do that, then it needs to be like where we segment out the days because right now people rent it for a wedding and they want to rent it out for the entire day because of setup, tear down, and then, you're kind of limiting how much is available for other types of events. But yeah, I see that's a good point because you're right.
so
I've checked into places and that's how they did it.
also I don't leaving it so affordable is part of the reason why we may be getting the number of rentals we are. So you may be shooting yourself in the foot to some degree. And I also we may have this data in terms of how many town residents rent it versus outside of town residents. But also I know that people will ask people in town to rent it for them.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean, part of this is, you could probably lop off half of the situation just by making some tweaks that don't negatively impact residents.
Right.
And then you make the other third of the tweaks by, having the we'll just call it a hall monitor or whatever.
Right.
So there's there's a couple ways to do this where I think you could potentially make quite an impact on the situation and still have something that's a viable benefit to town residents. I mean, we don't, we don't do this for the monetary value. We don't
Right.
really make a lot of money. And but our rates are, probably too far behind, and that is part of the situation that is causing this. So,
Right.
usually when, and kind of like Tom said in the beginning, a lot of what happens here is just creep, and you get, 20% from the fact that it's not expensive enough, and then you get 20% because we're not monitoring it and we don't have those resources. And then pretty soon you got a problem. So
Right.
just something to consider, guys.
We're more strict on lending a tennis key and a boat ramp key to
Hmm.
somebody that's not a town resident than we are running the town hall. So
Yeah.
that might need to be something to consider too.
True.
Yeah, no, no doubt. I do think, again, I do think that you could tweak a few things, fix, make the rental agreement more robust, and we could make a pretty big impact and still, you know, having it stop at 9 o'clock, man. If you're gonna have any kind of, party, 10 o'clock is even pretty early, but I totally understand why we have it at 10 o'clock. I wouldn't want to go later, but I don't know, 9 o'clock, it kind of becomes, I don't know if that's an early quit time.
Maybe
I'd
I'm
rather have
getting
less.
old, sir. I like to go to bed by 10:30.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to stay young desperately, but but listen, I think that, all that to say, I guess, limiting the number of rentals is probably a better proposition from wear and tear, because we're not doing it for volume. We're not doing it for dollars and cents. We're doing it as a service. So, you know, that's just my feel. It's less wear and tear, less events, less, you know, Tom could go to less movies. Um,
Less cost for
and
Tom.
right, exactly. So it's more effective for him. But but I do think we're going to have some, once you make the rental agreement more robust, and you figure out whether we do want to have a monitor type situation or what have you. I think you can get there without, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Councilperson Stroop, then Councilperson Williams.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate all the input and the time you guys are putting into this. And there's a lot of great ideas out there. I still have to keep going back to I like the monitor for a lot of reasons, not just the noise, but for just behavior purposes, being the retired old cop that I am. Um, I think the sound is it obvious is if I know that everybody that goes to a party thinks that 10 o'clock is early, but when you're sitting in your living room 100 times a year, it's not too early. So I really feel like, and I think this has been proven in, if we're going to quote other um, venues, then the venues that I quoted on my presentation, they're done by 8. And they're done by 8 because the people in the neighborhood want to enjoy their evening. And like I say, if it only happens 12 times a year, like Randy said, I mean, yeah, I can live with that. But we're talking potentially 100 times a year or more if we improve this venue, which we are. So I know 10 o'clock might seem early to people that are at the wedding, but I promise you it's not early to the people that have to hear the wedding 100 times a year. So I feel like 9 o'clock needs to be our drop dead time if we're going to make a change. The outdoor music is a big deal. Live band is a big deal. Once again, town events are exempt from this. But if you include the 69 times and add up all the other times, minimally we're 100 times a year. So while we're considering this, please keep in mind that 10 o'clock may seem early if you're at the wedding once a year. It's definitely not early when you have to hear it 100 times a year. So I feel like if we don't move it to at least 9 o'clock, it's not going to have the desired impact that it should have in our community. It's probably not going to have much of an impact at all, really, except that we're going to have somebody else there that we can call if there's a problem. And I don't think that's what I want to sit in my living room doing every night, seeing if it's too loud for me to call or not. So I would, I'm advocating for 9 o'clock because I think that's going to make the biggest difference. And I think that any noise monitoring is going to be very subjective, even to the person that is up there monitoring it. Other communities have done it for the same reason. And like I said, it's only an hour difference for the people that are there, but it's a world of difference for those of us that live here.
Thank you, Tom. Councilperson Williams.
All right. Yes, sir. First, I think if we bring the rental up to market value, if we look around, um, we're going to cut our rentals in half, because we're going
Right.
from less than $1,000 a rental to probably something that's in a $3,000 range. So I think right there, that's going to cut it in half. So you're going from, 69 to 30 or even less. I do think 10 o'clock is not too late. It's not too early, but maybe it's a compromise. It's the doors have to be shut at 9 and everything has to be pulled off the back porch and it's only inside. But this is where if we have a planner slash host, that those pieces can be fit into the rental agreement. Um, but I really think just bringing us in line with the proper rental amount will fix a lot. As for the cost for residents, definitely needs to be a discount, but I also think there's got to be a balance on wear and tear. At what point do you just go, okay, we're going to have a birthday party in the park, and maybe it's not inside town hall, or maybe it's just in the outside area. I think the idea, what is the rental, Robert, right now for town residents? $500?
That's what I was going to ask. What's the difference between the two if you can pull that back up, Robert? So I think it's 15. I thought it was 1,500 for non-residents and 500 for the day for residents, something like that.
I think it's less than that even.
It might be. I was because I know there was like
What,
there's a 4 hour and then there's an all day. Because I
250 deposit, 500 is what I think it was the last time I did it, which in my book is way, way, way too cheap, even for the facilities the way they sit right
Oh
now.
yeah, I called the
Um,
Pines and all the places in the area when I was doing my daughter's kindergarten party. So I called everything within a 15-mile radius.
you
We
know,
were the cheapest for a big venue place like that.
so, and that's kind of my point is we need to be in the $3,000 range, which will cut out a ton of rentals that we don't need. We're going to make the same amount of money with a third of the rentals, so or even a quarter of the rentals. So I think you just make it tough, and but you make it open, which will still allow us to reach out for other funding sources for this remodel too, because I think there's a requirement in there if we go after any kind of grant money for this, it's going to have to be a public venue. So we can't just control it down to just residents either. Am I wrong on that, Robert?
I would say it's not always like that. Robert's muted, but
Okay.
it's not. It won't back you out of every grant, but it could back you out of some for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Just a,
I just want
just
to,
why it definitely will have a downstream effect.
okay. So I think we're all on the same kind of page. We need to get this rental agreement a little bit robust, and then figure out the best way of enforcement, on it. And then I think 90% of our problems go away.
Yeah, sorry, Andy. No, I was trying to pull up the rental agreement again. Um, but yeah, we cannot have just resident only if we're looking at receiving public funds.
You could also council could conceivably set a max number of events per month for rental. Max rental number. There, like I said, there's lots of ways, guys, to go about this.
If you did
Yeah,
a if you did a horse historic type grant, you don't have to. I don't think you have to have it open for public rental as far as that goes. There
you
are
do.
grants um,
No, you do.
for public rental, not
Yes,
not
ma'am.
from the National Historic Preservation Office. It has to be open to the public. It doesn't have to be open for rental. I don't think.
Yes, it does. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I'll
It's like
double.
it's like I mean, we had a grant opportunity today for
Hmm.
um the boat docks, and my question was, does that be open to the public? And they're like, yes, has to be open to the general public. Um, so if you receive any public funds like FERDAP, that's one of the examples that we had to take
Yep.
away from the FERDAP grants for Fernwood was that it would be open to the
Hmm.
general public.
Well, I think open to the general public and open for a rental of a private party are two different things, but I'll 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 concede on that one for now. I don't know the exact answer without looking at it. But I am kind of more in agreement with Tom about the 9 o'clock or somewhat earlier for the, shutting it down. Because even if you close the doors, you still hear that bass. I mean, you definitely hear the bass. I don't know if I would guess we would have to put something in town hall and close the doors and see how it is, but I think you'd still hear the bass. I'm actually a night owl. I like to stay up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning personally. That being said, even though I am a night owl and I don't go to bed as early as some of the other people, my kid does. So even on weekends, she goes to bed early. When she was younger, it was more of an issue. So, we've got a lot of families in town. So I'm not against an earlier time. And maybe that weans down between the costs going up, weaning down how many events we have, and then having a shorter time frame for the music, 9 p.m., maybe that weans it down a little bit more. If, I think Tom makes a good point when he says, we're here 100 days a year. They want to have a wedding. They want to have a wedding that they can play music after 9 o'clock. I mean, we're in the Orlando metropolitan area. There's a million other venues they could pick if they don't like what our requirements are. So I agree with the earlier time, but I know we're going to look into this and this is just the beginning. So, but I just wanted to voice my opinion on that.
All right. Can you guys see the rental agreement?
Yep.
Yes, thank you. That helps because I couldn't remember and I've rented it a couple of times.
That's what I thought for the full day. I couldn't remember the other ones, but yeah, it's 500
You
resident rate.
know, one thing a couple of the other little community venues did was they said um, the music stops at 9 and then they have to be out by 10. I mean, that could be a concession also. Like the music stops at 9. Closing the doors doesn't change anything, Andy. I can still hear it. And matter of fact, the outdoor no, we're not even supposed to be outside with right now. Even the construction stops at 9 o'clock in town. The brewery is not to have any external noise pollution according to their the contract there. And like I said, maybe we can just stop the music at 9 and they can stay till 10, something like that, maybe, because it's the music that really bothers most people. People up there hanging out and reminiscing about the past or planning their future is fine. I don't have any problem with that. That's why the brewery does so well because people sit on the front porch and hang out till 10 o'clock. Nobody cares because they're just kind of hanging out there. So maybe we can just stop the music at 9 and then they can hang out till 10, something like that.
We can go like
Did I
all
did I break
silent disco.
did I break the internet?
No, no, I was just thinking how we could convert it into a silent disco venue or something.
But hey, you can wear earphones. The people with
Oh
people with
yeah.
autism have
That's
to wear those
true.
headsets and
That's
they
true.
dance away and nobody hears it.
I've seen
I'm
that.
all down for that.
I've been to
School
one of those
dances.
on a cruise. It was fun.
I have two on the cruise, and they do it
Yeah.
for school dances sometimes too.
Yeah.
I also think if we're going to have a monitor in there, if they're going to truly monitor all of our rules, I think we'll probably lose a lot of people renting it when they actually keep to 100, 125 people, because that's not a lot of people.
And once again, for clarification, I'm not trying to shut anything down. I'm
Oh
just,
no,
yeah, I mean, I'm really not. I'm all for it. I'm out in every single, you guys know, I'm in my yard every day. I'm
hmm
walking the streets. I'm all over Windermere. I'm all about community. I'm not trying to shut it down. I just say 9 o'clock shuts the noise, 10 o'clock shuts the doors.
can always do it. If it's too much of a problem, we could always change it back, but we could try it and see how it works too.
Did I break the internet again?
No, no,
Just you and your madman photo.
no. This is this is the interesting portion of a workshop where you then kind of have to convert the discussion into a next step and
Mhm.
Yeah.
trying to
Process.
The
trying
other,
trying to process the best way to do that and make sure that everyone feels heard. So, Council Mayor-elect Williams, it's all
Yes.
you.
yeah.
Congratulations, Andy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Congratulations.
you. Um,
And by the way, Jim, if I don't thank you, which I'm sure I will, thank you for all that you've done for this community over these years.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
I would like to hear more from more residents on this subject, especially when we start talking about
Oh, yeah.
um, laying out these rules, that we need
Yes.
a good group that can look at it from all the sides too.
Could
Um,
we? Yeah.
just like, I don't want to go down this road and go, oh, yep, we're gonna close it at this time and this time and not get anybody else's opinion. Cause I mean, I'm looking at our chat here or at our participants and it is,
It's not many folks.
it's not a whole lot of folks. It's a lot of council, it's a lot of staff,
No,
um,
we have a few.
and nobody else.
So the other thing I think we may want
Um,
to
we
do.
need, we need,
Go ahead, Andy. Sorry.
no, you got it. I'm good.
I'm sorry. I thought you were paused, and I apologize. Um, we I think we could get some of these other venues. Um, let's see if we can get their rental agreements and then review those, and then have a subsequent conversation. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to turn this into 20 meetings because it's just we have people here that are certainly capable of making reasonable decisions that'll benefit everyone they represent. But also, I think when we start looking at the rental agreement, our rental agreement versus where we want to go, I think that may help. May give us some really good, foundational ideas that have been tested and tried and true that we can kind of merge together and find something that fits us. So I think that might be a good place to start.
We all know my opinion. I'm always pro public input in general. So at some point, yeah, I
Well,
think we should go.
nobody's not pro public input.
Right.
It's just that also all I'm saying, and I know what you're saying, Brandy, but all I'm saying is if you have 25 meetings on it, it's a year away. When this seems like something we should be able to, you know, get done in a couple months. That's all I'm saying.
Right. We have some comments actually from residents popping up in the chat box, I see, just so you know.
I'm looking at those. Thank you. It's mostly Andy typing.
There's a Hannah.
There's a comment from Hannah, and
I do see Andy.
I do think
Hannah.
it's a good idea, including residents, and I'm curious how many residents have rented the town hall in
Yeah.
recent months to find out what they thought about the rental agreement as well. I think that would be
Yeah.
interesting to know.
I was curious out of the 69, how many were residents and how many weren't
Yeah.
in
Well, I
general?
think that's all. Those are all things we can find
Yep.
and research and
Bring
get a
back.
little more data. I think
Yeah.
partly we had this on the books and we wanted to address um,
Get it started.
councilperson Stroop's concerns because again, as I know that most people realize, but not everyone realizes, we can't just be sending texts around and solve a problem together. We need to do that in a public forum such as this. So that's why we got the ball rolling. I think we had some good conversation. I think there's I do get a feel for where I think it might be headed in terms of kind of middle of the road. But let's look at some other rental agreements. I think that we may find what we're looking for there, and it may be quite helpful.
Yeah. Mayor, real quick on the so we had 69 rentals, but we really can't differentiate or separate
Yeah,
them from
I know what you're saying.
Well,
yeah,
there's different prices, so why couldn't you? Wouldn't it just be if somebody rented it and they paid 1,500 for the day, it's a non-resident. If they paid
but you
500, they're a
but
resident.
But
hang
you
on.
can exclude them if you're looking for public funds.
Oh, I'm not saying exclude them. I'm just curious what the statistic is.
Okay.
I don't want
But
to leave.
Brandy, you also have to remember that residents can
Nonprofits.
also rent the town
That's
hall
right.
for other people as well. So it might be hard to differentiate resident versus outside.
And
And without
then,
Well,
get, and
yeah.
all this is great discussion, but without getting lost in the weeds, I don't care if my grandmother rented it. I still don't want to hear her music. You know what I mean? So to me, it's not. I'm not trying to shut down. I'm not trying to shut down the non-residents or make it more difficult for anybody to rent. I don't care how many people rent it or what the cost is. To be honest with you, I care what the effect is on the community. So for me, it's like, yeah, those are all issues we have to address, and we probably should look at all of the other, like the mayor said, we should look at all the other options for different communities. But this is Windermere. We got our issues may be different than somebody else's, so it's a noise issue. It's not a rental issue, and that's why I keep going back to that. If I didn't hear it, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. We'd all be happy. So
I
it's not really how much
I
we
don't
charge.
know about I don't I don't know. I think this, I think there would be still be a conversation.
Yeah,
And it, the issue is that, it's more how you get there, and
yeah.
how we accomplish it. Um, you know, because you can have a difference. I mean, you and I live just about the same distance away from town hall. Um, I hear less. Part of that's just the way my house is built. It's newer and it has the thick windows
Hmm.
and everything. So, there's a lot of things that, and the fact that, town hall doesn't hardly have any, the sound is going to get out of there. So I think at the end of the day, it's not to take someone else's agreement and make it a Windermere agreement. It's to take parts and pieces from multiple agreements. Let's harvest the best fruit and put something together that looks and sounds and feels like us.
That makes sense. Yes.
Fair?
That's very fair.
All right. Any additional thoughts or conversation, council?
Nope,
I do
thank you.
appreciate those. I do appreciate the information in the chat. I did review it all. And yeah, I mean, I think that got the right people here to get to the right place. I think
Yeah,
we'll move
Mayor, just
forward.
one
Yeah,
last
Tim.
comment. I just wanted to say that I'm not sure I wanted to listen to Tom's grandma's music either.
I, oh goodness.
Yeah, do you don't like country music? Is that what you're saying?
Not
I
that
like all
old of
music.
country
It
music.
was it
Yeah.
was it was only Merle Haggard.
Oh, a
Merle
little
Haggard.
waggy twang.
Oh,
Merle Haggard, Conway Twitty.
There you go.
yeah. No thanks.
Yep. Well, listen, it'll all come back in the end at some point in time.
Mhm.
But yeah, let's get a little more information, have a subsequent conversation. We're going to have some other workshops coming up that will allow us to kind of process this through, and hopefully, um, Tom, you feel a little better that folks are looking at it and trying to
Oh,
move it
absolutely.
forward. And I know
Absolutely.
I know
Thank you.
you'll I know you'll shepherd it, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I feel a lot better. Absolutely.
And Robert,
Cool.
do you have the video that you can send me of whatever Tom sent
I'll
so
send it
that,
to you.
well, I don't know if you can send it. Can he send it, or does it need to go through you or
Yeah,
George?
Tom, you should not sent it.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
best to have everything go through the clerk.
I'll put it
That's
on the
that's
internet.
why I
That makes
didn't
it better.
respond.
no, no, no,
I'll put it on YouTube. How's that?
no,
Then
no,
then anybody can look at it. That's fine.
Yeah.
no, sir. I will send it to Brandy. I have it. So yes, sir.
Thank
Did
you.
all the other council members see it?
I believe so. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That was my internet again, or not my internet. I mean the Microsoft Outlook. Huh? I don't know
Yes,
what
ma'am.
happened. Okay, thank you.
Anything additional for the good of the order from staff or council?
Um, Real quick. So I'm not doing a price comparison or a time comparison. It's just the agreements.
I think that, Robert, I think that the agreements are a good place to start. I do think that we can put all the prices on those. You don't have to do any analytics, but I think we can get an idea from that. And I think most of us know, I mean, obviously, Lou Gardens is going to rent for more than Town Hall, but I think we kind of know the facility, so I think maybe in our minds for conversation and comparison, it'll be a good tool.
Yes, sir.
Is that reasonable for staff?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. Anything additional? All right. Seeing none, we will make sure I get the right time zone here. We will close this meeting at 7:18 p.m. Fair?
Yep.
Thank you, everybody, for your participation, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.